That's right, understand the video media. And we thought the best way for you to understand that was to go behind the scenes with a local television station. The news department, of course. A local television station receives most of their programming from satellites. This allows producers to produce a program in California or New York and beam it anywhere to America, or the world for that matter. But news is produced here locally every day and is broadcast usually from noon, 6, and 11.
WNEM-TV5, serving Bay City, Saginaw, Flint, and Midland. Live from the News Center of Mid-Michigan, Lorna Barrett, Rod Maloney, Mike Hoffman, and Mark Wesley. This is News 5.
And we wanted to go behind the scenes at News 5. Everything in television operates on a very rigid schedule, so we headed to WNEM studios in Saginaw early to see just how news stories are assigned. The assignment editor contacts his reporters and photographers by 8 a.m., giving them a story he wants for the noon news.
To go out to Flint Bishop Airport, we've got a fellow coming back from Turkey today, serviceman, and Dan's going to meet him there at about 10:10. Yeah, once you get in the car, I'll just give you his name so you can remember it again. It's Alex Stantiford. Alex Stantiford. The spelling I've got is Stantiford. Tiford. Yeah, don't know his son's name. Sons are stationed in U.S. Air Force operation in Turkey. Okay.
So we headed to Flint's Bishop Airport to meet Jim Kurtzner and watch him prepare his story for the noon news.
How did it feel to get out of there?
It was no big deal.
Really?
Turkey was a good tour. I enjoyed it.
Were you concerned at all about being in that region, though, given the situation right next door in Iraq?
Turkey's no problem right now. It's worse for the Turkish military there than it is the American military. Turkey, most of the American troops in Turkey are away from where any potential problem areas would be, so I don't really see any kind of a problem.
That could change, though, overnight, too, couldn't it?
If Iraq attacked, but I don't think Iraq's in a position to fight a two-front war.
How'd you think the interview went?
Pretty well. I was surprised that he wasn't more anxious about the situation over there, more anxious to get out of there, more anxious to get home. But he's a career military guy, and when I asked him, if you get called up, how do you feel about that? And he says, whatever it takes, I'm ready to go. Mm-hmm. So he has the mindset that's needed.
Are you used to covering a lot of these type of stories, the top stories?
Sometimes. It depends on the news of the day. Sometimes I get them, sometimes other people get them, but it's always exciting when you have a hot, big story like this.
And it's an exclusive because you're the only, there's just 5.
I'm surprised that other people weren't out here.
So we followed Jim back to the Flint Bureau of News 5 to watch him edit and microwave his story to Saginaw in time for the noon news. TV5 is the only station in this area to provide closed captioning for its hearing impaired viewers, so each reporter types verbatim the audio of his story to be sent along with the microwaved video. You gonna go and edit it right now?
Yep.
Okay, let's go.
Oops. Excuse me, forgot my notes.
That helps. So what are you doing at this point?
This will be in the form of a VO byte VO for the noon news, which means the anchor in the studio will be reading the copy over the tape voiceover. So I'll be cutting the tape to fit the times, the amount of time that it takes to read the copy and so on.
Okay.
We have to put color bars down on the tape for the engineers to set it up before we feed it.
New York.
Yeah. How do you do? Jim Kutcher. Welcome home. How's it feel to be? You believe?
So there won't be your voice over this. It'll just be the anchors.
Right.
Both 5.
You'll hear my voice on the question, but that's all for the noon news.
And at 6, will they hear your voice?
Don't know yet. Don't know what form the story will take yet.
Turkey's no problem right now. It's worse for the Turkish military than it is the American. If Iraq attacked, but I don't think Iraq's in a position to fight a two-front war.
Hi, this is Flint. Would you take a look at me for a feed, please?
New York.
Thanks, Larry. Bye.
So what are you doing right now? Are you microwaving?
Ready to feed it, right.
Can you do it from right inside this room?
Right. What I see here is what they'll see up there, and when I roll the tape, they'll record it up there and then play it back. Hi there, news please. And what they'll do is they'll record what I have edited here. Hi there, this is Flint. We're ready for a feed for noon, please.
Welcome home. How's it feel?
It's worse for the Turkish military there than it is the American military. Turkey, most of the American troops in Turkey are away from where any potential problem areas would be, so I don't really see any kind of a problem.
That could change though overnight too, couldn't it?
If Iraq attacked, but I don't think Iraq's in a position to fight a two-front war.
If you wanted, it is two-front war. Two-front war. That's it. Thank you. Bye.
So now they have the feed and they're ready to air it at 12?
Yep, and it'll be on the air in 25 minutes. As fast as that.
So what do you normally do at this point?
Well, now I'll call the assignment desk and we'll discuss what we have going the rest of the day and how we want to handle it. Never-ending battle. That's what it's all about.
You ever done 2 stories in one day?
Oh yeah. In fact, we'll probably have 2 or 3 of them going by this afternoon.
So most of the time you get more than one story?
Yep. That's the nature of the biz. One story might have like my face and what we would call a package report where I would narrate it and I would do a stand-up in the field and so on. But a lot of the stories we do are these, where we just do a quick turnaround and the anchors will handle them. But we do both. I mean, like, you know, I'll do stories during the day where I may not appear on the air myself, but that's how the story got on the air, was because I went out and gathered it. Hi, this is Kurt. Is Ryan handy, or is he still crunching on the noon? All right, why don't you have him call me back when he's loose? Hi, everything's in for this on the noon. No problem. No problem. The idea that I had for this afternoon is we have a couple of the congressmen in town this afternoon at 4:30 for the opening of the new Democratic office. And we might want to just get their reaction from a congressional point of view on these latest developments that the Americans and others are now being called hostages. And maybe we could fold that in with this guy and turn it into a localized package for 6. Sander Levin, not Carl, but Sander. Yeah. I don't know what his committee assignments are, but I can always ask while I'm there. And they would be available at 4:30, so I can crank this first half out of the way and then just lay in the second half with them when I get it. All right. What else do we have going on? All right. on this gas thing, you mean? I think he's just going to talk generically about how this weekly survey is going to be handled by the Ag Department. It doesn't sound like it's going to be all that different than the AAA survey. Sure. Incidentally, I talked to the guy over at the radio station, and I would just soon put that story on hold because he says it's going to be a month before they come up with a game plan on what they're going to do. And since they went off the air yesterday, it's kind of an old story at this point. Yeah, I'll hang on to it. And in fact, the guy told me he'd call me and let me know what their game plan is. So I just put that on hold for now. Looks like we're going to have enough other stuff going. All right, we'll talk to you. Bye. So, I will be talking with 2 congressmen this afternoon, and we'll fold that in with this guy who just arrived home and his father, and we'll make that what we call a package report for 6 o'clock.
Great.
So that'll be the game plan there. As far as what else is going on this afternoon, he's still crunching on his end to put the news on. So the rest is still kind of up in the air at this point.
There's still a lot of late editing that takes place at this time over in Saginaw and other reporters.
Yeah, the other office right now is abuzz with everybody putting the final elements in the newscast to get it on the air. The gal who just took this feed from me on tape is making sure that tape gets into the projection room and gets on the air and so on. So yeah, they're probably right up to the last minute. In fact, it'll be interesting to see. We can watch it on the air in about 15 minutes from now and see how everything comes out.
Do you normally watch your reports? Do you normally get a chance to sit down to?
I'll watch the monitor just to see how my stuff, if it got on the air cleanly and so on. Because you never know until it's on.
Sure.
Well, one area career military man just returned home from leave from duty in the region. Staff Sergeant Patrick Staniford spent the last 12 months in Turkey, right next door to Iraq in the Middle East. He is an Air Force communications specialist who has had 2 tours of duty in the Middle East. Turkey is not directly involved in the current conflict, as are neighboring countries, but being stationed there was still nerve-wracking.
It's worse for the Turkish military there than it is the American military. Turkey, most of the American troops in Turkey are away from where any potential problem areas would be, so I don't really see any kind of a problem.
That could change though overnight too, couldn't it?
If Iraq attacked, but I don't think Iraq's in a position to fight a two-front war.
Now, Patrick will be home with his father in Burton until September 14th, but that too could change if the situation gets worse. Patrick could be called to duty with the Air Force in the Middle East. And a small number of...
How do you think that story went?
I think that worked out well. It got on the air clean and just like you planned.
Joining American military forces in the Mideast. Their exact destination.
Watch the competition. You gotta know what they're doing too.
Have you ever anchored before, actually? Let me start with that.
I anchored here for about 2.5 years, Monday through Friday, and then for 1.5 years on the weekends.
And so, do you like going out and finding the news as opposed to just reporting it, or is that why you came back here to reporting?
I enjoy the field work. I mean, you were with us this morning. That's where the action is, out gathering the news. I mean, anybody can sit in an office like here and sit at the anchor desk and read the news on the air reasonably well. But, yeah, this is where the fun is. This is where the action is. In fact, one of the best stories we did within the last couple of weeks, these are some still pictures. We went up in the Goodyear Blimp when it was in town for the Buick Open golf tournament, and I took 2 of my daughters with me. And they got to ride along. And in fact, they kind of did what you're doing, and they did a little news story themselves on their ride in the Goodyear Blimp. That was just one of the other guys who went with us. That was our camera guy from TV5 who shot the story. And that's a shot of the pilot and the cockpit and the control panel. That's my daughter Jennifer, and that's Mark, our cameraman. That's another shot of us. So I was interviewing her, and I gave her a little reporter's notebook like the one I use so she could take notes on the story she was doing. So it was a lot of fun.
Let's talk about your daughters. Are they interested in? Are they interested in the news? Are they?
Oh, it's too early to tell. They're only 11 years old and 7 years old, but I like to get them involved in it so they can make that decision later on.
Okay. So how long have you been cameraing for Channel 5?
Since last August.
This last August? Where did you just start, or have you come from a different station?
Worked at Channel 12 for 2 years and 3 months, and then I came over here.
Is it different here than it is at Channel 12? Is there a major difference? Is it noticeable?
We got better cameras. That's why I came here. Part of the reason was so I could have the camera that I use. It's a big part of my job is the camera that I'm working with. It's my tool that I use, so that's what I wanted.
What about the operational system here compared to when you're at Channel 12? Is there reporters different?
A little
Working
bit.
with the,
You know, everybody's got their own personality, so some are better, some are worse. That's the way it is.
How many reporters?
How is Jim Kurtzner? Quick, we won't tell him if you say so.
You want something usable?
Photo with the prez.
Oh, yeah, this
How
is a
many
cardboard
Sit down.
cutout. Cardboard cutout, I think.
I've been here about 2.5 years. Before I was here, I was at CNN Cable News Network in Detroit.
Chicken Noodle News.
Chicken Noodle News.
Like it better here than there?
What do you prefer?
It's hard to say. When I was there, it was a lot of travel. It was a lot of stuff on the go. We covered the Detroit area. We covered parts of Canada. As far east as central Pennsylvania and, whatever happened automotive. So we traveled quite a bit. At that time it was great. I was single. I didn't have anybody else to worry about. Now that I'm married and we're starting a family and, it's a shift of priorities basically. But I like both. I learned a lot at CNN. I learned a lot there that I still do here. I've learned a lot here. It's kind of business where you're always learning something. It changes so fast, you're still learning. You're always learning. When the time you think you know everything in the business, that's the time you should probably get out.
How competitive is this market, television?
Competitive? This market? This market isn't very competitive at all, I don't think. I think everybody's friends with everybody, which isn't bad, but I don't think there's very much competition between anybody. I think that there's more competition felt between the newspaper and ourselves than there are between the TV stations, unless it comes to a big story. And I think that competition actually comes from the newspaper people. They feel that if we get something and they don't have it, then they're really in trouble, which is probably true. They've got staff, how many times? 3 times the size of ours?
3 times the size of ours.
But then it's less expensive to be running a newspaper operation and paying.
Less expensive?
You think it's more?
I have no idea. I don't know what the costs are, but I know that each day when they put out all the 70,000 papers, whatever the Flint Journal does, it's a lot of money for all that paper. They got a big plant. Their building is, the Flint Journal building is bigger than our studio in Saginaw, I would think.
What I was looking at is as far as anybody can really go out for a newspaper and get a story, and it doesn't require
Anybody?
the type of cameras that are used here in the.
Yeah, we have. Each of us has one camera. Each photographer at the Flint Journal probably has 3 or 4 cameras. Then a whole array of lenses for them. When they add up their gear, they've got maybe $10,000 in gear.
See,
and we have 20,000.
What about the stories that don't require photography? What if they just?
Okay, well, you'll still have a reporter. You're still paying a reporter. They have more reporters than we do. We have 10 reporters. Do we have 10 reporters? I think we have about 10. Something like that.
Count them.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 12, 13 reporters and anchors. So and then they probably have 25. I think they probably have 25 reporters. So you cut out 7 reporters, say they have 20 reporters, you cut out 7 of them and you buy cameras.
Well, speaking of cameras, we headed back to Saginaw to see just how much technical staff and equipment it takes to actually run a television station. We're here in Master Control where it all happens. Programs are pre-recorded and then aired at a later date. Come on, let's take a look.
By programming this switcher, he can program about 15 events which switch the audio and video from every source in the building. At the same time, all the microwave links, all the synchronizers, all of our equipment here comes through master control, including the transmitter control, which is 5 miles away.
Now, do you run local commercials through here?
The local commercials are run through this Odetics machine right to your left here. It consists of 6 playback discs and a library that contains 280 playback cartridges, which you see 2 of them there in the load bin. Its capability is to play the entire broadcast day in playback. It also has recording capabilities that can be done at the same time through this computer terminal right here.
So, like I noticed the Cosby Show is being taped over here. Does it always come in at a certain time and you might tape it and then save it and air it later, or what?
Yes. The Cosby Show, we're on a 1-week delay, so the tape that I'm recording right now will play a week from today at 5 o'clock. It is a satellite feed, and in order to facilitate our time schedule, the satellite feed feeds twice a day. Like if I couldn't get it right now, I could get it at 12:30, and we do that every day. The Regis and Kathy Lee show is on the same satellite, and it's coming directly live off the satellite as we speak.
Next stop, the sub-control room. This is the spot where local programs are produced. Right now, they're preparing to tape a farm show. Let's take a look. What actually takes place here in the control room?
This is what they call Sub-Control A. It's one of 3 control rooms, and we use it primarily for commercial production. The other control room over there is for news, and there's a master control room down in the basement where all the station breaks are played, and there's a master control operator down there watches the overall operation of the station, plays the station breaks at the proper time and so on. But right now, for example, we're getting set to do a farm show. We'll do 2 of them this morning. In other words, we do 2 every other week, and then maybe this afternoon we'll have a commercial booked in starting at 1 o'clock and so on. But we have like today my assignment is audio, and it's my job to switch any microphones or videotapes or whatever audio tapes that need to be switched on audio. It's quite a long console. There's 32 inputs on it. But over there then is the video switcher. All the video sources come in there, and they can do anything they want with a video, digital video effects, and so on. And then we have monitors up on the wall for all of our video sources that we can see at any given time. And everything, usually a commercial is 30 seconds. That's the most popular length. And a client will buy time on the station, will book time to produce the commercial, and typically, depending on the complexity of the commercial, we can get a commercial done within an hour's time.
How many programs are running? How many local programs do you have that are produced here at Channel 5?
Well, the farm show that I just mentioned, then we have a TV5 in your community. We have a show produced by the Catholic Diocese of Saginaw called The Scope Show, and another Catholic program called The Catholic Mass. We have a program that we do for the United Way called United in Caring. So there's several local programs like that we produce. We used to have old PM Magazine and shows like that, but now most of our programming, of course, is packaged syndicated programs that we buy, like MASH or Night Court or Newhart and so on, Webster. Then, of course, we're affiliated with NBC, so a lot of our programs come from the NBC network.
And now for the news department. Bill Avery is the interim news director, and he is also the program director. I had a chance to talk to him, and here's what he had to say. What kind of advice would you give somebody who's looking into, let's say they want to come here, they want to be reporting, doing news? Is there any type of advice that you can give them to, as far as how to go about doing this?
Well, if it's somebody that's still looking to find out what type of schooling they should have, I would think that the best education you could have would probably be a college liberal arts degree. Find out a little bit about everything. Find out economics, little law if you can get it. Just basically a little something, because you cover so many different areas in the day-to-day news operation. It's important to have that. Then at that stage of the game, this market's large enough that we usually don't hire folks right out of school. So it would be best to get a job in a smaller television market, get the experience, learn what you're doing, and then come in here and look to move up into this market size.
How did you get started in this? How did you get started in the television business?
It was a strange combination of events. I was in high school. I was 17 years old. This is a long time ago. This doesn't happen anymore, so this is fairy tales, really. But I had a chance to get into a radio news operation. I worked there 2 years. So I was, 19 years old, and I got offered a job in a TV news shop. Took it as a reporter. 2 years later, I wasn't quite 21. The news director and the senior reporter quit, and they offered me the news director's job, and I wasn't old enough to vote. I've been a manager in television ever since, and in news for the majority of that time. The last 8 years I've been in programming.
Do you like the programming or news aspect better?
I always enjoyed news. News is just an entire world right to itself. It's a lot of excitement. I always enjoyed the idea that I knew what was going on really before other people did, because you're right there when it's happening. There's a certain danger involved in it too, with the types of stories that you end up covering and things like that. And I guess that appealed to me for quite a while. At this stage of the game, in all honesty, having going back into it now after being out of it for a number of years, I think I really realize how taxing it is, and I'm very happy that I'm in programming.
So did you ever wish, or did you look back and think that you probably wish you would have been an anchor or a news reporter or something where you're down right in the middle of it?
I did all those jobs over the years. I was a reporter on the street. I anchored for a while, and in different markets, not here. And so I really had a piece of all the action. I did everything that really you can do in television news. So it was, I had all the things that go with it, and I think at this stage of life I'd have to say I've done enough with that, and I'm real happy with the more placid world of television programming.
We were talking to others about this, and is television really a real competitive market? Is it what it seems to be with programs as far as the best time slot and getting the best program there? Is it really that competitive, or is it just a matter of being lucky?
Well, occasionally. I won't argue the luck aspect at all, but for the most part, it is a highly competitive business, because we're going after the taste of the audience, which is always really a tough thing to call. You never know exactly where people's tastes are, and they're constantly changing. You can obviously see the more recent success shows that you've had, The Simpsons on Fox and things like this, which are new. They're kind of cutting edge, and yet NBC has been a powerhouse operation for a long, long time with very, very successful shows. But it's not a business that you can ever sit still, because the audience and their tastes are never sitting still. So you're always moving. You're always trying to keep up with what the audience is doing.
Okay, let's meet some of the on-air talents in News 5. First, Mark Wesley, sports. Have you tried play-by-play announcing? Does that interest you? Do you like that better than what you're doing as this way?
I'll tell you what I like best of all, and that's going out and actually taking the video of whatever's going on, whether it's fishing or loons on a lake in Upper Peninsula or out in Isle Royal, or going to a football game and shooting, well, it was Bo Schembechler, now it's Gary Moeller on the sidelines, this kind of thing. That I like best of all. As far as doing play-by-play, I did it in college. I did play-by-play for high school basketball. I did college baseball. And college baseball, I got to admit, was the most boring thing I've ever done because it just took forever. You would describe what was on the wash line at the house across the street in between innings trying to find something to talk about. So, no, I'm not a big play-by-play person.
What would you have to say to somebody who's just starting out right here, who's just starting out and wants to become an announcer, wants to become something in the news department? Is there some key that they should know?
Yeah, there's a key. Learn everything you can about everything because you can't tell how important something might be. You never can tell. When I have a listening background in classical music, that's helped me time and time again in pronunciation of names that you run into on soccer teams and tennis and things like this. That's important. Learn to speak properly. Learn good English. Don't use D's. Don't say I asked him. Things like this. Because these are tip-offs right away, and people will say, well, that person hasn't really studied English, and why should they be talking to me?
Dick Fabian is busy preparing weather graphics for News 5 at 6, but he had a few seconds to spare. Where do you get the maps?
You get all our weather maps from the National Weather Service or a service we have called Cavoris, which sends us all the charts and everything that we need to determine what the weather is going to be. This is a current look at where the rain is around the East Coast. There's a little box over here that shows that there's, in this case, thunderstorm warnings up until 10 o'clock this evening, which we got off of another sheet of paper, but it gives us an idea of where the precipitation is. And also behind you, Mr. Cameraman, is a radar map, or pardon me, the storm track radar that also shows currently what the conditions are too. Should we dial up Michigan? We'll dial up storm track out of Detroit. We hit a number, and then I'm going to get a buzzing signal, which I'll let your microphone hear in just a minute. It'll be the sound of the radar coming through. And then when you look up there, it's coming in. See this button lined up here? That means it's the 60-mile range out of Detroit. When that's completed, it'll jump to 120, 180, and 240 miles. And when it's all done then out of the Detroit area, we'll get a pretty good chance to see where the precipitation is.
We're now going to go and talk to the anchors of News 5 at 6 and 11, Lorna Barrett and Rod Maloney. What kind of work is involved in this job?
Well, I think one of our primary responsibilities is writing copy, rewriting some of the stories that reporters bring in, writing stories that come off of the wire, making phone calls, and we don't always sit behind the desk. I haven't had the opportunity to go out as much as some of the other reporters, but we do go out every now and then to cover some stories instead of just staying inside all the time.
What kind of advice would you give to somebody who wants to start out, who would like to become a news anchor here or any other station? Is there a certain piece of information you'd like to pass along to them that might be important in this career?
I think the most important thing is to start early, like you're doing. If you're in school, if you have like a debate club or performing arts or a radio station at your school, to get your experience now, because that'll really pay off later. Start as early as you can. If you're in college, try to do an internship, whatever hands-on experience you can get. And going back to your first question, another thing that's really important for our jobs is really community service. We go out into the community and do a lot of activities, for the public, and that's a really big part of the job too.
I have always been fascinated with television since I was a very small child. In fact, my mom tells the story of how when I was a baby, it was the easiest way to get me to quiet down was to put me in front of the television set. And the fascination never left. I've always been intrigued by the very technology of it. And so I knew from a very early age it's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be in television. I wanted to be on television. And so what ended up happening was, as time went on, I had to decide what it was that I wanted to do. And the only real way to get on television every day and to be part of it is to become a journalist. So when I was in high school, I started thinking along the lines of learning how to become a journalist. But when I went to college specifically for mass communication. In other words, learning how to work with television and all of that. And as I went along, I was trained specifically to work as a television journalist, learn how to write and so forth. And what I did was I started in radio. I was working in commercial radio in college to get the experience, to get all the basic skills down, learn how to communicate into an inanimate object well. Think of the microphone as a person rather than getting nervous about it and that kind of thing. So I spent a lot of time in commercial radio while I was going to school. And then when I graduated from school, I went up and found a job in a very small town in Maine and had my first TV job. So that's the brief sort of nutshell history.
Okay. Now what kind of advice would you give somebody who's just starting out here?
If you want to be on television, you got to have one of several skills, or all of the several skills. You need to be very well read. Okay, that means knowing and understanding the English language inside and out. You need to know your history inside and out. And those are two very, very, very important skills. You do not necessarily have to go to journalism school to learn how to be a journalist, but you have to have an understanding of history and the English language and how to write and write well. The only way you can learn to write is to do it a lot. And broadcast writing is a very different kind of writing than writing for a newspaper or for a book or something like that. So those are the things you need to do.
Have you been doing some going behind, doing main story, so reporting instead of anchoring?
Yes, that is my real skill. Let me I'll pull up over here to the bench for you guys.
Okay.
That is more my training. I am more trained as a reporter than I am as an anchor. I've done both, and I've done both fairly extensively, but I've done more reporting than I have done anchoring.
As we were waiting there, Rod Maloney was getting ready to do a News 5 update. Here's how it turned out.
Good afternoon, I'm Rod Maloney. Coming up in just 15 minutes on News 5, we'll have all the latest on the Middle East crisis, and we'll tell you about the K.I. Sawyer soldiers who are on their way to the Middle East. An early morning accident on I-75 sends 2 firefighters to the hospital and kills 1 driver. And in Bay City, parents wonder whether they'll have to double as crossing guards because of budget cuts. And in Flint, it looks like the air show is going to be a thing of the past. Mark Wesley has the sports and Dick Fabian has the weather. We'll see you in 15 minutes.
Live from the news center of Mid-Michigan,
So we then
Lorna
followed
Barrett,
the News
Rod
5
Maloney,
crew into their
Mike
Saginaw
Hoffman,
studio
and
to
Mark
watch them put
Wesley.
the 6 o'clock
This
news
is
together.
News 5 at 6.
Good evening, everyone.
We had an excellent perspective from behind the cameras. 3 cameramen run the show and are getting directions from their producer and which angles to get. What you're seeing right now is our good friend Jim Payton controlling the speed of the teleprompter, which is also used as a key for our hearing impaired viewers to watch the news. Also, the script you're seeing now is read by Rod Maloney and is abridged to one of Jim Kirchner's stories. The floor director gives cues to all talents, directing them to which camera to speak to. With the point of the finger, the next talent starts talking.
Yeah, you're right, another drab day for most of the Great Lakes area. Let's take
When we were there, though, the real story was the Battle of the Flies.
Thunderstorms, flooding, and heat. Flood watches out in the west, and flood watches also in southern Ohio and also in West Virginia. But, guys, the good news is that there's going to be some changes that I think you're going to like along the way. I told you, Mike, for real.
The battle turned into a war.
But I really don't understand it. They even said after they made those type allegations that they were possibly...
Jim Payton monitors a live feed from Bishop Airport. But meanwhile, the rest of the crew is preoccupied with flies.
Being somewhat personal here, because to back this up a little bit, we should say they're saying that a $31 million terminal here is the reason that they cannot.
You notice the flies? We're killing flies all over the place here. Brian Wood reported, you didn't get that story, that there was one so large that landed at Bishop Airport for refueling and is heading our way for 11 o'clock tonight. But maybe that's a good omen because things are going to get better. Let's go to the weatherman and see what we have as far as our current statistics are concerned. And And as far as the highs and lows for today, for the velocity report, 71.
Dick Fabian, filling in for Mike Hoffman, stands in front of a green screen and looks at 3 screens to help him find where to point to, one on each side and one mounted on the camera. The graphic maps in which he has prepared before the show are filled in on the green section and inserted in the control room. It just goes to show today's television magic. But meanwhile, the Battle of the Flies goes on, causing some concern for sportsman Mark Wesley.
Chesapeake farmers tonight worry about the Persian Gulf crisis' impact on their business. The area's only grain elevator is about to shut down, forcing them to drive their goods to another elevator miles away. 5 Camp Farms reports they're about to hold an emergency meeting to figure out what to do.
Well, farmers in Chesapeake are getting their equipment ready for harvest. They're wondering where they'll take their harvested crops. For years, they sold grain to this elevator in town, owned by a burgering company. Since the company is not renewing the fleet, farmers will have...
Well, we'll tell you at 11. We'll see you then.
Tom Brokaw's next. Have a good night.
But he had many conditions. President Bush is waiting for the UN Security Council to authorize military forces.
Oh, there's a fly.